Ladies, let me tell you something. You were not born to fit into someone else's box. You weren't created to water yourself down just so other people can feel comfortable around you. You didn't come into this world to die slowly under the weight of their expectation. You are not here to chase applause, beg for validation, or shrink for approval that was never yours to begin with. You came to rise, but somewhere along the way, you forgot that. They told you who to be. They told you how to talk, how to dress, how to think, how to love. They said, don't be too much, then turned around and asked why you're not enough. And you believed them. You gave them your light and accepted their shadows in return. You gave them your fire and settled for their cold shoulders. You gave them your truth and they gave you silence. And still you kept trying to please, trying to mold yourself into something more acceptable, more palatable, more pleasing, trying to outrun rejection, trying to dodge the sting of judgment. You kept asking yourself, what more can I do? What more can I give? Not realizing the real question was this: why am I dying to be chosen in rooms that were never designed to recognize my value? Let me break something down for you. You don't need their permission to live your truth. You don't need a green light from broken people to walk your divine path. You don't need their nod of approval to breathe deeply, speak loudly, move boldly, or stand firmly in who you are. Because when you die for their approval, you bury your power. And when you bury your power, you betray your purpose. And that, baby, is too high a price to pay for temporary applause. You are not a mirror for someone else's insecurity. You are not a mannequin made to wear someone else's expectations. You are not a stage for someone else's ego. You are a woman, whole, complete, called. And when you know that deeply, fully, relentlessly, you stop apologizing for your truth and start living from it. Understand this: living for your truth will cost you comfort. It might cost you people. It might cost you family members, lovers, friends, old dreams, and shallow conversation. But what you gain in return, it's priceless. You gain peace that doesn't rattle when people walk away. You gain joy that isn't rented from approval. You gain the kind of power that doesn't whisper, it rolls. When you stop begging for a seat at their table, you realize you were called to build your own. They laughed when you started. They mocked when you stumbled. They whispered behind your back when you dared to grow. But you kept going. You kept showing up. And one day they'll call it luck. They'll say you were always that girl, but you'll know the truth. You were just done waiting for someone to validate what God already confirmed. Stop dying for their approval. You have spent too many nights crying over people who couldn't even recognize the weight of your loyalty. You have wasted too much energy trying to decode the silence of those who never deserved access to your light. You have given too many second chances to people who saw you as optional. You don't need one more compliment to know you are enough. You don't need one more follower, one more text back, one more like to know your voice matters. Because your worth isn't up for debate. It isn't on sale. It isn't hanging on the edge of someone's acceptance. Your worth is internal, eternal, and untouchable. And listen, the truth is, some people are not rejecting you. They're rejecting the version of you they can't control. The version that says no without guilt. The version that sets boundaries without apology. The version that refuses to live small just to keep their ego big. Let them go. Let the ones who can't handle your truth exit. Because the ones who are meant for you, they don't flinch when you're honest. They don't fold when you're real. They don't run when you're bold. They lean in. They clap louder. They see you. Not just the version that's easy to digest, but the whole raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. And baby, you deserve to be seen like that. You deserve to be loved for your truth, not your performance. You deserve to be embraced for your soul, not your sacrifice. You deserve to be chosen without condition, celebrated without competition, and respected without restraint. But first, you have to give that to yourself. You have to stop waiting for someone else to crown you. You have to look in the mirror and see the queen staring back. You have to reclaim your power from every person, every moment, every memory that told you to be less. It's time to rise. It's time to wake up from the coma of performance. Time to silence the noise that tells you you're too much or not enough. Time to walk into rooms like you belong, because you do. Time to speak your truth without trembling. Time to show up for yourself the way you've been showing up for everyone else. You will not be everyone's favorite, and that's a blessing. Because when you stop trying to be everything to everyone, you finally have room to be everything to yourself. No more shrinking, no more editing yourself in conversations, no more dimming your light because someone else forgot how to shine. No more waiting for a round of applause that never comes. You are not here to perform. You are here to be boldly, fully, powerfully. That woman inside you, the one who dreams, who dares, who speaks up, who walks out, who says enough is enough. She's been waiting on you to remember who you are. So here's your reminder. You are not too emotional. You are intuitive. You are not too loud. You are passionate. You are not too sensitive. You are deeply alive. You are not difficult. You just won't be disrespected. You are not broken. You are breaking free. And yes, choosing yourself will be lonely sometimes. But let me promise you something. It's the kind of loneliness that leads to liberation. It's the kind of silence that teaches you how to hear your own voice again. It's the kind of solitude that becomes your sanctuary, not your sin. This life, it's not a rehearsal. You don't get a second shot at this day, this breath, this moment. So why waste one more second pretending to be someone you're not? Why drain your spirit trying to keep people who only love a version of you that doesn't even exist anymore? Your truth is not a liability. It is your liberation. And every time you choose it, every time you stand tall when it would be easier to fold, every time you walk away when it would be easier to stay, every time you speak up when silence feels safer, you honor the woman you were always meant to be. So no, don't die for their approval. Don't shrink. Don't settle. Live for your truth. Speak it, own it, protect it, build a life around it, because the most powerful thing you'll ever do is stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. And when you do, you won't need applause, because peace, real peace, doesn't clap. It just stays. So many of you have been walking around wearing a mask that doesn't even fit. A mask that was stitched together from every moment you were told you had to change just to be loved. A mask made of fake smiles, silent suffering, and the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your soul. And the truth is, you're tired. Tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of being everything for everyone and nothing for yourself. But here's the raw truth. And I need you to hear me. You will never be truly free until you're willing to disappoint the people who expected you to stay broken. You're going to have to break some unspoken rules. You're going to have to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You're going to have to stop proving your worth to people who never knew how to see it in the first place. You're going to have to choose peace over people, truth over tradition, growth over guilt, because the version of you that was born to rise, she's not coming back quietly. She's not here to keep playing small just so other people won't feel insecure around her. She's not here to keep sacrificing her voice just to preserve someone else's comfort. That woman, the real you, is a force. She's not asking to be tolerated. She's declaring her space. And I want you to know there is no shame in starting over. No shame in saying, I no longer want this version of me. No shame in changing your mind, your path, your dream. What's shameful is living a life that was scripted by fear, edited by pressure, and approved by people who were never qualified to guide you. See, when you live for approval, you become a slave to perception. Every move, every word, every outfit, every post filtered through the question, What will they think? And the tragedy is most of the time, they're not even thinking about you. They're too busy managing their own insecurity. And still, you let their imagined opinions become the prison bars around your freedom. That ends now. You want to talk about power? Real power is walking away from anything that costs you your peace. Real power is choosing your truth even when it costs you your circle. Real power is not being the loudest in the room, but the one who knows exactly who she is with or without applause. You were never meant to dim to survive. You were built to shine to thrive. And don't let anybody convince you that confidence is arrogance, that knowing your worth is prideful, that standing tall is aggressive, that having standards is being difficult, that choosing yourself is selfish. That's just the language of people who benefit when you forget your value. But you remember now, don't you? You remember that little girl inside you, the one who once believed she could do anything, be anything, love without limits, dream without doubt. She's still in there. And she's waiting for you to stop abandoning her just to make strangers comfortable. So here's the deal. You have two choices. Keep living in the shadows of who they told you to be, or walk into the light of who you really are. You can keep editing your story to make it easier to digest, or you can tell it boldly and let the ones who can't handle it choke on the truth. You can keep trying to be liked by everyone, or you can be deeply loved by a few who see the real you. And let me tell you something, when you start living in your truth, the right people show up, the ones who don't flinch at your honesty, the ones who aren't threatened by your success, the ones who don't disappear when you evolve, the ones who clap when you win, even when they're not winning. But they can't find you if you're still hiding behind who you think you're supposed to be. So step forward, even if your voice shakes, even if your knees tremble, even if your past whispers, who do you think you are? Walk anyway, speak anyway, live anyway. Because this world is full of people living watered down lives, playing roles they never auditioned for, in stories that don't belong to them. You don't have to be one of them. You don't have to keep running after people who can't recognize your light. You don't have to keep settling in spaces that require you to shrink. You don't have to keep explaining yourself to people who are allergic to depth. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to understand yourself so fully that no one else's confusion can shake your foundation. And yes, choosing your truth might make you feel like the villain in someone else's story. Let them write you as the villain. That's not your story to edit. Your job is to be the heroine of your own. The woman who broke generational curses. The woman who stopped playing small. The woman who finally said, I choose me, and don't you dare apologize for it. Don't apologize for your healing. Don't apologize for your boundary. Don't apologize for outgrowing the places that once felt like home. You are evolving, and not everyone is supposed to come with you. Some people were chapters. Don't turn them into your whole book. And maybe you've never been told this, so let me say it now. It's okay to outgrow people. It's okay to outgrow dreams. It's okay to outgrow the version of you that survived and start becoming the version that thrives. It's okay to want more. It's okay to be misunderstood. It's okay to walk alone until you find your tribe. It's okay to not be okay as long as you don't stay there. Because even in your mess, there is magic. Even in your breakdown, there is breakthrough. Even in your pain, there is purpose. So no, don't die for their approval. Live boldly for your truth, and let that truth make you unstoppable. You see, there's a kind of woman this world doesn't know how to handle, the kind who stops asking for permission, the kind who no longer waits for a sign but becomes the sign, the kind who doesn't knock on doors but builds her own house and installs her own lock, the kind who doesn't just talk about change. She becomes the change. That's who you're becoming, and that's why it's getting uncomfortable. That's why some people are pulling away. That's why the energy is shifting, because when you start walking in your truth, Anything and anyone that was built on your silence will start to fall apart. But don't mistake that shaking for failure. That's confirmation. That's the sound of false identities crumbling. That's the sound of old cycles breaking. That's the sound of you stepping into alignment. You were never meant to be comfortable in places that required you to betray yourself. You were never meant to bloom in soil that resented your roots. And you were never meant to rise in a cage built by approval. Approval is a drug, addictive, temporary, costly, and the side effects, anxiety, overthinking, exhaustion, disconnection from self, spiritual numbness. You've overdosed on it for far too long. So it's time to detox from their expectations, from their opinions, from their noise, and get back to your truth, because the truth doesn't beg, the truth doesn't chase, the truth doesn't shrink, the truth doesn't explain itself over and over, trying to be palatable. The truth stands, the truth breathes, the truth lives, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's messy, even when it costs you everything. And here's the wild part. When you start living for your truth, you stop settling for survival. You stop calling stress normal. You stop labeling pain as loyalty. You stop mistaking attention for love. You stop pouring into situations that only drain you. You begin to operate from a deeper place, one where alignment matters more than applause. You start saying no without guilt. You start walking away without drama. You start protecting your peace like it's sacred, because it is. And the world doesn't always know what to do with a woman like that. A woman who no longer sells pieces of herself for cheap connection. A woman who no longer bends her back to carry other people's expectations. A woman who walks like she knows her name, her mission, her worth, even if nobody else claps for her. But that's the price of freedom. And freedom, baby, is worth everything. Freedom means you get to show up as you are, not who they remember you to be. It means your past no longer writes your present. It means your voice no longer shakes when you speak truth. It means your life becomes yours again, not their version of it, not society's mold, yours. And I'll be real with you, it won't be easy. Living your truth will stretch you. You'll have moments where you want to go back to fitting in, back to playing nice, back to silence, because silence was easier, approval was faster. But you'll remember easy is where your soul went to die. Fast is where you lost yourself. Growth is slow. Truth is heavy. But freedom is worth carrying the weight. There will be nights when you question it all, when the loneliness cuts deep, when the quiet feels like punishment. But hear me, that silence is not empty. That silence is sacred. That's the space where you begin to hear your own voice again. That's where the healing gets loud. That's where clarity is born. You're not lost. You're becoming. You're unbecoming everything they told you to be, so you can finally become everything you were born to be. And don't look back. Don't romanticize the version of you that had to shrink to survive. Don't mourn the relationships that required your silence. Don't grieve the roles that were never designed for your greatness. You are not responsible for who they needed you to be when you didn't know who you were. You're responsible for who you become now. And that woman, she's different. She's not looking for a savior. She's becoming her own. She's not chasing love. She's embodying it. She's not looking for validation. She's walking in her own reflection and saying, I'm enough. She doesn't chase closure. She closes doors. She doesn't wait to be chosen. She chooses herself. And let me say this, not everyone will clap for this version of you. Some will be confused. Some will be uncomfortable. Some will call it arrogance, ego, selfishness. That's fine. Let them talk. Let them project. Let them sit with the loss of access to the version of you that kept them comfortable. Because here's what they won't tell you. They liked you better when you were easier to manipulate, when you questioned yourself more than you questioned them, when you made excuses for disrespect, when you made yourself small so they could feel big. But that era is over. You are no longer in the business of betraying yourself to make others feel whole. You are no longer signing up for emotional discounts. You are no longer building homes and hearts that treat you like a guest. You are rising unapologetically, unshakably, unstoppably, and everything you thought you lost in the process, the people, the comfort, the false peace, none of it compares to the woman you're becoming. She's not born from approval. She's born from the fire of knowing who she is without. You're not just living your truth, you're leading with it. And there's nothing more dangerous, more powerful, more world-shifting than a woman who has stopped begging to be seen. You see, when a woman finally sees herself, the whole world changes. Not because the world got easier, but because she stopped asking it to. She stopped waiting for her environment to change and started becoming the change she needed. She stopped shrinking in rooms that couldn't hold her truth and started building spaces that could. And you will too. You will stop lowering your standards just to avoid being alone. You will stop calling it loyalty when it's really self-abandonment. You will stop saying yes just to keep the peace when every part of you is screaming no. You will stop molding yourself into shapes that break your soul just to fit into spaces that were never designed to honor you, because now you know your truth is not negotiable. It's not up for debate. It doesn't require explanation. It doesn't need polishing. It doesn't have to be palatable. It just needs to be lived boldly, fully, out loud. And when you live that way, when you walk in full alignment with who you are, you become untouchable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get unshakable. And I know you spent years pouring into everyone else, loving people who didn't love you back, fixing what you didn't break, carrying weight that was never yours. But hear me clearly, you do not have to keep bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You've paid your dues in silence. You've held it together when everything inside you was falling apart. You've smiled through betrayal. You've walked through fire. And now it's time to rise from the ashes, not as the version of you they thought they could keep small, but as the woman who finally chose herself. You will no longer be defined by what you lost. You will be defined by what you decided. You decided to stop chasing people. You decided to stop proving your worth. You decided to stop waiting for someone to choose you. You decided to stop pretending you were okay when you were drowning. And in that decision, you unlocked power. You stepped into the kind of authority that can't be taught, the kind that comes from breaking, from healing, from rebuilding, from finding the courage to look at your reflection and say, I'm done performing, I'm done pleasing, I'm done hiding. Now you show up. You walk in your calling, not their comfort. You speak with conviction, not hesitation. You wear your scars like medals, not wounds, because everything you've been through didn't break you. It built you. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every setback, every loss, it didn't destroy you. It refined you. It carved out the woman who no longer lives for applause, but for purpose. The woman who no longer seeks perfection, but authenticity. The woman who is no longer available for anything that costs her her peace, her power, or her truth. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them mislabel your silence, your boundaries, your glow up. That's not your concern. You're not living to be understood anymore. You're living to be aligned, and alignment will cost you access. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you people, but it will give you the real you. And listen, I get it. Approval feels good. Validation feels safe, but it's counterfeit. It doesn't last, and it doesn't feed your soul. What does? Truth, honesty, integrity, alignment, joy that doesn't come with conditions. Peace that doesn't disappear when people walk away. You are not here to be the background music to someone else's story. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be whole. And wholeness will offend those who only know you broken. But keep choosing it. Keep choosing your voice, even when it shakes. Keep choosing your boundaries, even when they're challenged. Keep choosing your growth, even when it's lonely. Because one day, you're gonna wake up and realize that the life you're living isn't one you settled for. It's one you built. built on truth, built on strength, built on clarity, built on the unshakable belief that you don't have to shrink to belong. You belong as you are, right here, right now. And for every moment you thought you were too much, remember, you were just too real for a world addicted to pretending. You were too bold for people trained to play small. You were too deep for conversations stuck on the surface. That's not a flaw. That's not something to fix. That's your power. Your truth will trigger people still running from theirs. Let it. Your boundaries will offend people who got used to access they never earned. Let them be offended. Your glow will disturb those still hiding in the dark. Let it shine anyway, because you are not here to dim. You are not here to explain. You are not here to survive. You are here to live, and not just any life, but a life so rooted in truth, so drenched in purpose, so aligned with who you really are, that no lie, no loss, no label, no rejection can pull you off track. And if there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this: you were never too loud, you were never too much, you were never too sensitive, you were never too complicated, you were just never meant to be small. So take up your space, speak your name, own your journey, and never again shrink to make room for anyone who refuses to rise with you. Because when you stop dying for their approval, you start living in your anointing. You want to know what freedom feels like? It's waking up and not needing to second guess your every move. It's walking into a room without wondering if you're too much for it. It's saying what you mean, not what they want to hear. It's making decisions that are rooted in your spirit, not in their silence. It's living a life that no longer drains you to maintain. And you know what's even more powerful than freedom? Peace. The kind of peace that doesn't require an audience. The kind of peace that doesn't rise and fall with other people's moods. The kind of peace that lives inside you and doesn't flinch when the world tries to shake it. The kind of peace that says, I know who I am and I'm no longer afraid to live like it. That's what happens when you stop chasing their approval. You stop being a puppet on someone else's stage. You stop feeling like you owe people access to you just because they had it once. You stop over-explaining decisions that only your soul needs to understand. You stop carrying guilt that was never yours to hold. And here's the thing. The people who only knew the version of you that bent, that begged, that broke yourself just to keep the peace, they won't understand this you. This version that walks away instead of overcompensating. This version that says no and doesn't soften it with 1,000 excuses. This version that doesn't show up just to be tolerated. They'll call it attitude. They'll call it ego. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. Because when you live for your truth, you do change. You stop hustling for your worth. You stop staying where you're not celebrated. You stop loving people who treat your heart like it's disposable. You stop pouring into conversations that leave you empty. You stop making homes out of people who treat you like a hotel, temporary, transactional, and forgettable. Instead, you build a home inside yourself, a sanctuary, a place where your own voice is the loudest one, a place where your intuition isn't questioned, it's honored, a place where your soul feels safe, even if the world outside doesn't understand it. That's what truth gives you. But let me tell you this, truth doesn't mean you won't feel pain. Truth doesn't mean you'll never face loneliness. Truth doesn't mean everything will go smoothly. What it does mean is that every struggle you face, every storm you weather, every night you cry, it will all be worth something, because it will all be real. You won't be faking joy. You won't be manufacturing confidence. You won't be performing strength. You will be living from the inside out, authentic, grounded, whole. And there's something magnetic about a woman who moves that way. She doesn't force connections. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't compromise her core for convenience. She walks in rooms and doesn't compete because she's not there to be better than anyone. She's there to be herself. And that energy, it shifts atmospheres. You don't have to outshine anyone. You don't have to be louder than the noise. You just have to be aligned. That's where your power is. That's where your authority is. That's where your confidence lives. Not in being perfect, but in being real. And maybe nobody told you this before, but you're allowed to redefine yourself. You're allowed to grow beyond what they remember. You're allowed to outgrow circles, break family patterns, walk away from friendships that no longer nourish you. You're allowed to choose peace over history, alignment over familiarity, your future over their expectations, because your life is yours. And the moment you stop living like it belongs to everyone else, you step into destiny, a destiny that doesn't demand perfection, but demands truth, a destiny that's not about who claps for you, but who you become when nobody's watching, a destiny that honors your voice, even when it shakes, a destiny that holds space for your complexity, your softness and your fire, your strength and your sensitivity, your wisdom and your wildness. You were never meant to live in pieces. You were never meant to be manageable. You were never meant to be digestible. You were meant to be whole. And wholeness starts with truth, not curated truth, not watered down truth, your truth, the messy, beautiful, evolving reality of who you really are beneath the performance. You were born with a voice. You were born with a calling. You were born with light in your bones and fire in your blood. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't made to wait for a turn. You weren't made to silence yourself for comfort. You were made to stand out, to speak up, to rise. So rise. Rise even if your hands are shaking. Rise even if your past still echoes. Rise even if you don't know where it's leading. Rise because the woman you're becoming deserves to meet the world without apology. Let them whisper, let them wonder, let them walk, because none of that matters now. The only thing that matters is that you stopped dying to be seen and started living to be free, because this life is short and wasting it trying to be what they want. That's a death by 1,000 cuts. But living in your truth, that's breath, that's fire, that's purpose. So stop asking for permission. Stop waiting for them to clap. Stop dimming to survive. Stop shrinking for access. Stop pretending you don't know who you are. You do know. You've always known. You were just waiting for someone to say it was okay to choose yourself. Well, here it is. It's not just okay, it's necessary. Choose your joy, choose your peace, choose your voice, choose your calling, choose your truth, and watch how your life catches fire, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Because when a woman stops dying for approval and starts living for her truth, she becomes unforgettable, and nothing, no rejection, no betrayal, no silence, no loss can ever take that away from her again.